Hello, my dear students. This is Abhishek Mishra, Faculty of Social Studies at MLZS JHANSI. In this video, I am going to teach you Political Theory chapter number 2, and that is freedom. So, you all know what is called freedom and what are the basic elements of freedom. But still, in this chapter, we are going to discuss freedom in a very descriptive way. So, without wasting any time, let's start. Here, an introduction about freedom is given. Like human history provides many examples of people and communities which have been dominated or enslaved or exploited by more powerful groups. But it also provides us with inspiring examples of heroic struggles against such domination. Like you might have heard about the first revolt of independence that had taken place in India in the year 1857. You have also heard about Louis XVI in class 9th who was ruling in France, and revolution occurred in France in 1789 against that despotic ruler Louis XVI. So there are many instances in the world history where people had taken strict measures against these despotic monarch or the rule of the domination. So, what is this freedom for which people have been willing to sacrifice and die? In its essence, the struggle for freedom represents the desire of the people to be in control of their own lives and destinies and to have the opportunity to express themselves freely through their choices and activities. Not just individuals, but societies also value their independence and wish to protect their culture and future. So, basically, what is freedom? We can say that freedom is something that gives you choice to work according to your wish. If you have the right to work according to your wish, and what are your grievances that you can also express, so here you may say that you have the freedom. If there is any problem with you, you have the power, you have the right to express it. It can be said that you are free. If you are working according to your own wish, it can be said that you are free. So these are the basic elements of freedom. Now, however, given the diverse interests and ambitions of people, any form of social living requires some rules and regulations. These rules may require some constraints to be imposed on the freedom of individuals, but it is recognized that such constraints may also free us from insecurity and provide us with a condition in which we can develop ourselves. So, what should be the limit of this freedom? Like if a person is free to act according to his or her own wish, so how much he can express or experience or can do his actions, on how much extent किसी व्यक्ति को फ्रीडम अगर दी जा रही है तो किस हद तक, up to which limit he or she may exercise his or her freedom. It has been said कि your freedom ends where the freedom of others start. तो स्वतंत्रता के ऊपर कुछ कॉन्स्ट्रेंट भी बनाए गए हैं. There are some constraints which can restrict you to exercise your freedom in any area. There are some foundations on your freedom that help a society to flourish itself. Moving further, in political theory, much of the discussion regarding freedom has therefore focused on trying to evolve principles by which we can distinguish between socially necessary constraints and other restrictions. There has also been debate about possible limitations on freedom which may result from the social and economic structure of a society. In this chapter, we will look at some of these debates. There are restrictions on the freedom of the citizens as well as on the rulers. Rulers can act in an arbitrary manner in any country. So some restrictions are imposed on their working. While citizens, if unlimited freedom will be given to them, they will also exercise their power, their freedom in such a way that will restrict the rulers to rule in that particular country. Though if it would be in the welfare of the citizen, but if they have freedom to go against the ruler, that will be hazardous for the growth of the country. There will be many people who will want to exercise their freedom in any context. So for this, some restrictions are imposed on the freedom that can lead to the social welfare. Here you can see two images. The first image is of Aung San Suu Kyi, while the second one is of Nelson Mandela. Aung San Suu Kyi was accused in Myanmar, while about Nelson Mandela you already have studied in class 9th in the chapter Long Walk to Freedom. That was his biography. Now moving further, coming to the next topic, that is the ideal of freedom. What are the basic principles of freedom? स्वतंत्रता के सिद्धांत कहाँ हैं, क्या हैं, कहाँ से ये स्वतंत्रता आई? So let's discuss here. Before we set out to answer these questions, let us stop for a moment and consider this. The autobiography of one of the greatest persons of the 20th century, Nelson Mandela, is titled Long Walk to Freedom. What this long walk to freedom symbolizes? A long struggle against the despotic rule, against the colonial rule in South Africa, and to get freedom. Mainly this struggle continued for 30 years. And for this freedom, Nelson Mandela was sent behind bars for 30 years. In this book, he talks about his personal struggle against the apartheid regime in South Africa. Apartheid regime, you people very well know that this was the system where blacks were discriminated. They were discriminated by the whites. Whites के द्वारा उनको discriminate किया जाता था. Rights were not given to them. So this was called as the apartheid regime in South Africa. That was the segregationist policies of the white regime about the humiliation, hardship and police brutalities suffered by the black people of South Africa. These ranged from being bundled into townships and being denied easy movement about the country to being denied a free choice of whom to marry. Collectively, such measures constituted a body of constraints imposed by the apartheid regime that discriminated between citizens based on their race. So, basically, we can say that this policy of apartheid was against the race. It was against the black race. The people, those who were of black race, they were denied of freedom. They were denied to marry according to their own wish. They cannot express their views. They do not have the right to vote. Theaters, schools, public parks, toilets, buses, everything was separated for them. So this was the policy of segregation. For Mandela and his colleagues, it was the struggle against such unjust constraints, the struggle to remove the obstacles to the freedom of all the people of South Africa, not just the black or the colored, but also the white people. And that was the long walk to freedom. So Mandela and his colleagues struggled a lot to achieve this principle of freedom in South Africa. Later on, in 1993, Nelson Mandela came out of the prison and the country became republic in the year 1994. So we can say that people are ready to sacrifice their life for the sake of freedom. For the sake of freedom of their countrymen. For this freedom, Mandela spent 28 years of his life in jail, often in solitary confinement. Imagine what it meant to give up one's youth for an ideal, to voluntarily give up the pleasure of talking with one's friend, of playing one's favorite game. Mandela loved boxing, of wearing one's favorite clothes, of listening to one's favorite music, of enjoying the many festivals that are the part of one's life. So for the sake of the freedom of their countrymen, Nelson Mandela had sacrificed his own freedom. He had sacrificed his ambitions. All his young age, he spent in the deadly prison that was named as Robben Island in South Africa. So he sacrificed his youth, he sacrificed his freedom for the freedom of their countrymen. So this shows the greatness of Nelson Mandela, and from here we can understand that freedom is the basic ingredient or the spices of a modern nation. How much freedom is important, that we can understand. Now here I am ending this video. Some more topics I will cover in my next video. Till then, thank you. God bless.